I'd like to open up the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, September 25th. And why don't we start the meeting by saying Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is payables and payroll.
I'll make a motion that we approve the accounts payable manifest from September 25th, 2017, and the payroll manifest from September 26th, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? No. All approve?
Aye.
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 Right.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the minutes from September 11th. We have two sets of minutes, both public and non-public.
Public had changes, non-public did not.
Make a motion, we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting from 9/11/2017 as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I'll abstain.
I move we accept the non-public minutes of 9/11/2017
Second.
as written.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Aye.
All approve?
All right.
Aye.
All again, abstain. All right, next up, board reports from assigned boards and committees. Do you want to start with budget?
Yeah, we met, was it last week, Dawn, or the week before? We just met.
The 14th.
14th, correct. Yeah, we just met, the school reviewed their current budget status. They're pretty much on track where they expect to be. Confirmed some appointments. Mike Keister is the vice chair again. And at our next meeting, I'll be reviewing the town third quarter financials. We did have some discussion about who the board, who the budget committee would like to meet as we get later into the budget year, at least for department heads. So I did recommend that they make a point of meeting the new public works director when that time comes, just to, meet the fella, whoever he is, and get an idea of, what his vision is, answer his questions, so on and so forth. It was a pretty quick meeting for the most part.
And who's the chair?
Miska Haddock.
Anything on Marston?
Nothing on Marston.
Right. Charlie, your CIP, is that right?
Yes, and nothing yet.
Okay,
I know there's a meeting scheduled. I couldn't tell you when it is right now.
okay. And the planning board did not meet last week. We've got a meeting on this Wednesday. We're in this time frame now for a period of time where we meet the same week as the select board. We kind of like the latter half of the year does that, just the way the calendars go. But there's a minor subdivision in front of us, and then a public hearing for site revocation. Chris, town administrator report.
I'm gonna send around a few things, some generic mail to flip through. The best piece of news in there is that we have finished paying the bond on the renovation of this building. That's in there, which I don't get to give you good news once in a while, but about 30 grand a year that we don't have to pay anymore.
When was it renovated? 80 what?
I don't know, how long was the bond?
This building,
Yeah.
Is it 15?
2003.
Okay.
So anyway, there you go.
I see that.
Signature needed on appointment form for Nick Deskovich, our new full-time police officer, who will come to meet you at some point. The schedule works out. But he came back from a reserve assignment. I think he's in the Army Reserve. And very soon thereafter came on board with us. It happened really quick, so it was great. It's good to have him. So we need you to appoint him. Second item is a request from the Historical Society. They, a couple years ago, went through a big effort to get electronic versions of a lot of records at the state archives.
Yeah.
And there was a big chunk of them missing. There was a book they couldn't find. They've since uncovered that book. Or I think actually Nottingham folks found it while they were over there, but whatever the case may be. The Historical Society would like to send those out to be scanned.
That was inside this.
In order for them to leave the premises of the state archives, they need your permission to do that. So we're asking for your signature there. And the cost of that scanning, if you have no objection, will come out of the appropriation that was made to Historical Society business at town meeting last year. They think it's going to be about $450. There's $500 in that line item. So if you're all right with that, sign away. That's the signatures in there. Is this coming back to me? Has that been around already?
That, yeah, and the rooster letter is making the
You
rounds.
need a motion on the rooster letter, or?
No. No, unless you want to get involved in some other way, best to pass it along. You guys, question?
I would say, was that $500 for the Historical Society, the same contentious 500 that was
Yeah,
debated?
it's in the operating budget, so
It
it's
is
under
now,
your
yeah.
control, and
Okay.
that seemed like an appropriate use of it, so if you don't have any objection, I will turn them loose. We had the Lakeview neighborhood walkthrough with our highway contractor this weekend. I'd say it went pretty well, pretty similar to the one we did in the spring. That work's probably gonna start early next week, maybe even the end of this week. There's plenty of desire in the neighborhood there to pave Lookout Point, which is a little road that swings off of Lakeview. Lakeview goes around the point,
Right,
and then
goes-
Lookout Point goes even further out the point. It's kind of successive loops. And I've talked with Johnny about Lookout a couple times. It's a bigger job than we could fit into this found money. But we heard from more than a couple folks out on Lookout Point that they'd like to be included in that level of restoration work as well.
Is that a town road, or is that an
It is,
emergency lane?
yeah. The window for applications for building inspector closed today. I got some good applicants. I'll be interviewing the end of the week and the beginning of next week. Hope to have some news for you by your next meeting. tax rate setting season is coming up quickly. You've all been through it with the exception of Tony, and Tony and I are gonna talk through that language, so that we're all ready to go when that time comes. It comes fast and furious, as you remember. The preliminary look at things is that there shouldn't be much in the way of surprises or big decisions for you. You're gonna have an overlay decision, but there's not really anything big brewing there. So I'm not expecting any big surprises on the town side. We did that last year on or about the 16th of October. Their process seems to get a little better every year over at DRA, gets a little faster, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were ready for us sooner than that. You're not scheduled to meet again for a while. Your next regularly scheduled meeting falls on Columbus Day.
Oh,
We don't have anything on the agenda for you for the 9th at this point. So I don't.
It's like a month out.
What's that?
Our next meeting will be on
It'd be 4 weeks from tonight, yeah.
October 23rd.
23rd, yeah. It would be miraculous if the tax rate setting lined up with a regular meeting schedule. That never happens. We've, the last couple of years, done that more or less electronically. What I did, at least last year, was got a hold of everybody individually, typically text or cell phone kind of thing, and say, hey, heads up, we're trying to get through it today, and then did it all electronically. If you want to try to do that first, we can start with that if it works. If it doesn't work, or if we find that we have big decisions or discussions, then perhaps we can get together on short notice. We never know when the rate setting is going to happen until the night before or that day, and so I guess I'm inclined to leave the 9th as a see if anything pops up. The other option is to meet the week before the 23rd and after the 9th, which is the 16th. If you'd rather do that, so that we don't go a month without something.
what do folks think?
I'd look at my calendar, but I lost my phone.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's not.
And we don't have to make that decision now. So if you want to go look at your calendars, look at your travel plans, and let me know,
Yeah,
we can wing that. We don't have anything really time sensitive. Come November, we get into the budget, it gets a little more serious with the meeting schedule.
right, right.
So we can fly loosely on that for now.
Was anybody planning on being out of town on the 9th, Columbus Day? Is that a holiday for staff?
Yeah, but I can come. Doesn't matter to me. But
Or we could do it tentative that Tuesday, the 10th?
Yeah, I know.
That far out, I don't think I have any major commitments, so. I'll
move
say
the 23rd to the 16th. Is that what you were?
No, I was
No.
thinking if we needed the 9th,
Oh yeah, we
to
can.
move it to the 10th.
Oh yeah, that's a possibility too. Let me make sure there's nothing.
PBA meeting is scheduled for the 10th. Doesn't mean that we can't come. Typically, it isn't here.
Or we can meet down there.
Yep.
If it's mainly just to talk about the tax.
Okay. All right, that's easy enough.
So you want to do that? Leave it as tentative, the 10th?
Tentative for the 10th? Yeah. Okay.
And just let us know,
Yep.
it looks like.
And that's all I have for you.
He said, I found out, excuse me, I was informed today of a dedication of a bench that the Girl Scouts have raised money for, and it's gonna place it at the site of where the bomber crashed in 1944 over in a state park. At first I'd heard of it, but it's gonna be Saturday. I thought I
Yeah.
wrote it down. But,
I saw that too.
I hadn't heard a thing about it, but in 1944, there was a B-24 bomber that came out of Grenier Field in Nashville, Manchester, Londonderry, and crashed on Pawtuckaway.
That's the first time you heard about it. The plane crash or the bench?
The bench the Girl Scouts have done a fundraiser, have this bench made, and they're gonna dedicate it at the site, which I guess you have to get to from the Deerfield side, go up Reservation Road. So, something I'd like to attend. I don't know if anybody else is interested, but, you
What
know.
time they gonna be at? Or it's probably somewhere in the Girl Scouts site, I don't know.
This one, I wrote it down. No, I don't. I can't find it. It's in the morning.
Yeah, I think it would be great if you
Saturday
could go.
morning.
I won't be able to go, but, yeah.
They should be able to
I'll get some more information on it, and I'll email it to you.
Okay.
So everybody will know when it is. It's funny, I'd never even heard about that plane crashing up there either. First time I'd ever heard
Yeah,
of it.
first time I've ever heard of it.
I think I read it in in a town history once after I
Yeah,
first moved here, and I forgot all about it until I read that notice last week about the Girl Scouts.
okay, you did see the notice, and somebody
Yeah.
said there was something up in the library.
Yeah, I saw it.
And it's
I
on-
saw it on Facebook
It's on the
somewhere.
forum, too.
Yeah.
So we have 7 o'clock, right? We don't have anything in between. We've got 10 minutes.
Well, she's here, you could start.
What do folks think? Do you want to,
Okay, Saturday the 30th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Saturday the 30th at 10 a.m. I found my note.
thank you, Charlie. All right, do we want to go ahead with the 7 o'clock, 10 minutes early?
Sure.
What do folks think?
Yeah, that's
All
fine.
right, just come on up. And if you could just state your name for those who may be watching from,
Dee Decker, Pawtuckaway Lake Improvement Association, Lake Coast Program Coordinator.
Okay, and I'm John Decker, President of Pawtuckaway Lake Improvement Association.
so,
You requested me to be here to answer questions, so I'm
yeah, I
here.
think just maybe if you could kind of give an overview, especially for my sake, since I wasn't here when it was discussed at the last meeting, and then, yeah, we'll open it up for any questions and stuff.
Okay, I also was not here when it was discussed, so I'm not quite sure what transpired at the meeting. The Lake Coast program has been run for many years here in town by the PLIA. We staff both the Fundy Launch and the State Park as of last year, doing courtesy and boat inspections, as well as educating boaters on the clean, drain, dry message, and the new law that came out in January about trailering invasive species and draining your boat before you leave boat launch. Historically, there was a warrant article before the town at town meeting for $4,000 to support the program. And then whoever was running the program, Donna Danis at one point was doing it, I took over from her. And we would put in a very simple request, many times verbal, to have the funds sent to New Hampshire Lakes. They are the ones who our lake hosts actually work for. That way we don't have to deal with payroll and taxes and all of those things. So the funds get sent to New Hampshire Lakes. We receive a grant from New Hampshire Lakes that we apply for each year. And then the contributed funds from the town, the association, and our volunteer hours go towards our required match. In order to receive 100% of the grant for the following year, we need to match 300%, and the cash contributions is part of that match.
So can you tell me in dollar what that match is and what you get?
So for 2016, the grant amount was $4,800. So we would have to match 300% of that $4,800 to receive 100% of the grant for 2017. The amount of the grant for 2017 was $4,650 because we were just shy of the 300% this year.
Well, yeah, this past spring.
This past spring, for the 2017 grant. So a couple of years ago, the type of warrant article was changed to the new format, which is a
Capital Reserve.
Expendable trust fund.
expendable trust fund. And apparently as a result of that, the way those funds are allowed to go out have changed, which I honestly wasn't aware of, even though this was the second year of that. And so I talked to Chris back in June after the program started and talked to him about having the money sent up. He asked if we needed it yet. I said no, because we had the grant money plus a little bit of rollover money from last year. So the end of July, when I realized that we were beginning to get low, I again requested it and found out Chris was on vacation. So I received a report saying we were actually overdrawn. We are not allowed to deficit spend. However, they did pay our late coast because they just did. And because Chris was out of town, I ran an emergency check up to Concord to cover what we were missing, plus the following payroll, with the anticipation that because I had requested the money, it would be showing up at New Hampshire Lakes. And then I got another report that we were overdrawn. And I kind of called and talked to Don, and I'm like, what's going on? I thought the money was, being sent up. And so there was some miscommunication on my part. And so when Chris got back, he said, sent me an email saying that he needed to bring it to you guys to discuss. And so thinking that the money was being put in August, the PLIA has now put in all of the funds that, up to this point, that have gone out to pay payroll other than the grant, where normally the town would put money in, the PLIA would put money in, and we would make sure, and we've never run out of money before. It just has not happened. So there were a bunch of things this year that kind of got a little screwy. So I called Chris after the result of this meeting on the 11th and was dismayed to find out the funds were not approved, and he told me not to worry about it. He had some questions. He asked me for some information. I sent the information, called on Friday, had the check gone out? Nope, check hasn't gone out yet. And then Chris sent me an email asking me to come and discuss whatever questions, you guys happen to have. I will tell you that on September 20th, a check for $2,000 did arrive at New Hampshire Lake for the towns, and for that I want to say thank you. So I guess that's
So
kind
does-
of the overview.
So does that 2,000 cover what was owed?
Yes, so today was payroll day. And as of today, with the $2,000 that the town sent up, we have a balance to use towards payroll of $1,024 and an estimated payroll for the rest of the year of $2,000.
My understanding is Donna was going over all the hourly rates and all that, and trying to, and for some reason, I believe it seemed to her that you may not need, she couldn't see where you needed the whole $4,000. Not that it wasn't available for you, but she didn't know it should be sitting in the IA's fund or Lake Host Fund, like over the winter, like in escrow. If you didn't have to have it, it might as well stay in the towns. I may be mistaken, but that's the drift I got, the gist I got from what she said.
Well, right now, the town has basically said that they would support the $4,000.
That what?
The town has previously said that they would continue to support the $4,000
Yes.
per year. So at this point, the town has put in $2,000 this year, and the PLIA has put in $3,800 plus all the volunteer hours. So it would be great to have the town contribute the other $2,000 to help offset some of those PLI.
I personally don't have an issue with it. For some reason, Donna just couldn't make the budget work out, what she was looking for, and honestly, I didn't go over and try to do the same thing she did.
Quite frankly, the reason that it looks like there would be money left over is because if the money had been contributed by the town when it was requested, that money would have been being used, and then at this point, the PLIA would have been covering the balance of the year. So, and that is historically the way it has always happened. We run through the grant money first, the town puts in their money, and then whatever is needed at the end, sometimes less, sometimes more, is covered by the PLIA.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense to me.
So how long does the program start? Does it go from Memorial Day to Columbus Day? Like
so each program is different. Our paid program, because we have a volunteer program and a paid program. Our paid program runs from the week of Memorial Day, so not Memorial Day weekend, but the week of Memorial Day through Columbus Day weekend. This year, because of some fantastic people that applied, we had the ability to staff not just Saturday and Sunday through the week, through Columbus Day, Labor Day to Columbus Day, but to staff during the week as well. And we have known from doing surveys and stuff that I've done with Donna that there are a lot of days that we miss from Labor Day to Columbus Day simply because we haven't been able to staff it before because we haven't had the personnel. So I have a college student and a retired teacher this year, as well as my other long-term host that have been able to put in hours this year. So we've done a lot more staffing Labor Day to Columbus Day than just weekends that we've done in the past. And we also staffed the full year at the state park, which working in conjunction with the state park has been very helpful because we know that that's our weak spot. That's where milfoil came in from. So we've been able to do that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday throughout the whole year.
So from now until Columbus Day, it's going to be another 1,024?
No, my payroll estimate. Now, and understand, this is depending on weather, because when it rains, They don't go out. So currently scheduled between now and Columbus, the Monday of Columbus Day is $2,000.
I think that was the intent, that they would get the $4,000, and I think it's just been a misunderstanding of funds availability or something.
That's all.
I would say I would move that we fund the additional 2,000, what's left of the account of the 4,000, the additional 2,000 to the Lake Host Fund, and be done with it.
So there's a motion on the table.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'm just curious, how much rolls over typically from year to year?
Again, depending on weather, it can change. Last year, the end of the year was very wet, and so we ended up having about, I don't know if it's in my notes or not, about $2,000 that rolled over.
2615, does that sound right? That was
Okay,
on
yes, yep. So we had the option of leaving the money there to start us for the next year, which is what the PLIA, because it was the PLIA money that went in last, chose to do. At a board meeting was decided on that, or to bring it back, you know, it would come back to the PLIA, whatever funds were left over. And it's just a decision on, what do you want to do with it at that point? For us, it was easiest to just say, we know we're going to need it next year, let's just leave it there.
But you've already burned through that surplus this year?
That's what started us this year, yes. Yep.
And then, how many volunteers hours are usually, how many volunteer hours?
So my estimated volunteers, and they're not, everything's not in the spreadsheet currently. I have to collect them from all the volunteers, and not everybody's, right on with putting them in. So our estimated for this year is about 5,700 to date, and we're planning on going through the end of October. Last year, our total cash equivalent for volunteer hours was $7,716.92.
That's the cash.
That's the cash equivalent.
And what was the hours?
Total volunteer hours worked 334.5. And the cash equivalents, and what they do is they multiply it times the number. Last year it was $23.07.
And I just have one other question. I saw that you got a recent grant. What was that grant for the Lake Host program, or was that?
That,
Neil's
we
grant.
had, the grant is to the PLIA, and the plan for that is to use with the, to help out with the search and removal process, potentially get people certified to pull milfoil, things like that, not Lake Host. That's really on the, not proactive, the side of, what's the opposite of proactive? Basically responsive side, but
So, just a couple of things to just kind of keep in mind, especially where some of you may not be really familiar with the program. The Lake Coast program benefits the whole town, not just the lake residents, especially up in the Fundy area. Because even though we know the state park is the weak area, the Fundy area is very fragile. And if anything gets into the Fundy area where it's so shallow, invasive species can grow 4 to 5 feet a week,
something like that.
or something.
Wow,
So I mean,
that's-
it can literally blanket the whole area, which could in fact choke out the entire town beach area, and then make it completely impassable for anybody to get out on the area, on the lake, for recreation.
And
And
plus it'll decrease the value of all the homes.
decreases the tax values, and preventing the invasive species is a lot less expensive, and both financially and to the environment, than it is to go in and do some of the eradication that's needed. to clean it up. And we're not talking about just plants here, we're talking about animals too, so it's a species, a whole range of species that we're talking about.
So there's a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? All right, you want to take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you for coming. Thank you for
very much.
explaining
We
it.
appreciate your support of the program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we had on the agenda, but I see that general public is here. Do you want to?
Yes. Gene Reed, Nottingham. I appeared while you were away, and the discussion was impact fees and the expenditure thereof. I handed out some information, and I talked to Chris after that meeting for two things: to be scheduled tonight, and also to see if he had come out of that with any assignments, so to speak. And I think his response was the effect that the board was going to mull it over. Is that about right?
Well, I think we've reached out to Mr. Mayberry, who has supported the town in the writing of the impact fees, and then as well our attorney to review, and we haven't heard back
Right.
from,
Those responses are coming in.
Yeah.
I haven't regurgitated them for you yet. I got one today, so that was the guidance from the board members to me, was to go ask those questions of those people, and that's underway.
What- It's been 2 weeks, so for your benefit, I'd like to go over what I had talked about. I understand that you were more well-informed perhaps than other board members.
as best as one can be.
I've read the ordinance, I've read the enabling legislation, I handed out an attorney from the New Hampshire Bar last week,
Chris gave me the,
and I don't see anything, and Chris had alerted the board that the expenditure of, I'm talking now about the school study, may not fit the exact criteria for an expenditure from the impact fee fund. I can't find where it fits any criteria, and that criteria being that those funds are to be spent for capital expenditures caused by new growth. Capital expenditures, according to the study and the guidance that the planning board has had, come off the CIP, capital improvement list. That was not on the capital improvement list, nor is it a capital expenditure. So it meets the very, it does not meet, correction on my part, does not meet even the basic criteria of being a capital improvement. Another factor is, if you read the attorney's opinion, which has been verified, is that a capital improvement has to be voted on by the legislative body, the voters. That was not voted on, so that actually could be argued that it's spending without an appropriation, because the town gets a say on an appropriation, the town being the voters. That being said, I don't know what the attorney's going to say, but I don't know what the question was. I've worked with attorneys, you've worked with attorneys. They can give you what you want to hear. The one attorney's opinion that I handed out clearly, and the legislative enabling action clearly talks about and says that it's for one reason, and that is for capital improvements. Improvements of, or new infrastructure. And they don't fit that. Those are the three basic ones. There are more. I asked it to the board last week. I asked if they would form a committee, because I don't think, based on this and other inquiries, that the impact fee program is being overseen by anybody in particular, or any bodies in particular. And there are I think there are holes in it. And I'm willing to assist anybody to go through that.
I didn't know that Chris was contacting me, because when I asked him, he said he came away with no assignment, if you will. So that's all news to me that these people have been contacted. I think a mistake was made, and I'd like the board to correct it by rescinding their vote, by a motion to rescind the vote based on the facts that it doesn't fit the criteria for that spending. A mistake was made.
Yeah, I think I'd like to get the attorney's opinion. My understanding of impact fees is if there is a capital project that is upcoming, that studies can be done.
After it's approved by the voters.
See,
Yes.
that, I don't know, that's a question that I wrote down here, because that's not my understanding, but
That's one of the
again,
attorneys that New Hampshire Bar titled The Perils of
Wait
Impact
until you
Fee.
hear from your attorney. to
yeah,
discuss
I
it.
mean, yeah,
So I've waited 2 weeks to be told that something I didn't know, that they're being, it's being investigated, if you will, or opinionated by somebody that won't appear before this board. I assume you'll take their information, and then there'll be no contesting of that information from the public. Is that a correct assumption? Let me restate it, because you have a
Yeah.
puzzled look on your face. Once these opinions, these outside opinions come through, then the board will rely on them and not the plain and simple language of the statute nor the ordinance.
Have you stopped beating your wife?
I
I think that's inappropriate completely.
I think-
I'm going by what sorry?
It's an interpretation that they have to make, and when you frame a question like that, they can't answer that
yeah.
question.
They can answer a simple question. Sorry?
You've framed a question for them that they can't answer with a simple yes or no.
I disagree completely. The question is this. Twofold. What are the primary qualifications for disbursement of impact fees? I think once you read the pertinent parts of the enabling legislation and the ordinance. That's not the question as you posed it to me. It's not a difficult question. In fact, Mr. Sterndale advised the board that it may not fit the criteria exactly. Is that a good?
I think they have judgments to make. They're gonna take the information they have, and they're gonna make a
Let
judgment.
me ask the question once more, if I may, through the chair. The town administrator gave advice that it may not meet the criteria exactly. Is that not a fact?
Are you-
One of the things I thought, does it meet the intent?
This,
Might not be exactly as things are worded, but if the intent was there,
well, I'm willing to discuss the intent. The intent of the law is to address proportionally the responsibility that the affected impact fee owners that have paid into the impact fee fund, the effect that they've caused on the infrastructure of the town, capital improvements. It's a straightforward law. I can't believe that 5, 6, counting Donna, can't read that and come to the same conclusion without hiring outside counsel.
I would say that it's not a straightforward law, so I would disagree with you on that. But
And certainly you can agree, and I'd ask you to explain to me how it is, how it could be justified.
So, I mean, and it's just my understanding in working with someone who's worked with impact fees throughout the state of New Hampshire, will even state that it's not a clear law. So I'm just telling you what,
Yeah, that goes back to my other question, that the absurd relationship of beating my wife, who's deceased, makes it double ridiculous. Is the board gonna rely solely, we've got brain power here, and we can read and write the English language
Yeah, I mean, I
and the
think-
clear meaning
I
of the
think
English
just
language.
I think just like, you know, we'll get the attorney's opinion. I think we'll discuss it as a board, and
Will you discuss it in public?
if, I would imagine that we could, I'm not sure, but
Don't you
wouldn't
think
think that there
it?
would
I asked
be-
to be on this agenda, by the way, and it's not there. I asked to be on the next agenda, please. It's not going away, and
no, I don't think it
will you
is going
share
away.
the attorney and the expert's opinion?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't see why we wouldn't.
I'm questioning because the right to know law is a little vague on that, talk about vague, about what things have to be shared. So I'm asking you, would you share that opinion as soon as it comes in?
You can't answer that
You
until
should,
you talk to.
you should make that decision once you see it. Yeah.
I'll go, honestly, I haven't read this line for line again. I've browsed it since we got that handout from you before, and I will go back and, I'm gonna go back and read it
Thank you.
more carefully, because you know,
I mean,
there's,
so my two remaining questions are, would the board entertain what I proposed last time, a complete review of the impact fee? Because there is no direct oversight, and I think it needs it. There's $250,000 in there now, approximately. And there are many people affected, and it is their money unless it's spent properly, then in 6 years it goes back to them.
Right,
So,
goes back to the current property owner.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, I agree. See, I read that part of the law. Although it's been contested and lost by developers and builders that they want their money back then. It's to the current property owner, yes.
I can say for myself, I do not know enough about this subject, so I would be leery about making a decision when I don't feel educated enough on it. So like Charlie, I think I need to read that thing through line
I'd
by
appreciate
line.
it. Seriously, I'd appreciate it.
You know, and, you know, reading through what you presented to us last time, it does seem that it's, you know, I mean, I'll give you that, it absolutely seems that the, what's the word, I don't wanna say management, but it does seem like the entire system is fragmented in such a way that a centralized oversight, as you were saying, is lacking.
At least a one-timer to lay out some guide. There's no checklist, for example, for you folks, that's been reviewed by the planning board, the parties that are interested. So when Gene Reed comes in and says, I want the money for whatever, then you can go, wait a minute, Mr. Reed. You see, yes, you're good so far. Whoops, did you do Y? A lot of towns have that built into their building permit process and development process. It's because you've been on the planning board.
I know if I was on the other side of that situation, you know, having a problem with the impact fees, the first question I would ask is, who's the controlling authority? Who is the person I go to that can make decisions? And it doesn't, I mean, granted, I don't know diddly about this, but it doesn't seem like there is a single controlling authority over this.
I appreciate your candidness and that I'm not casting aspirations. It is somewhat complicated, and the school put on a good case because they've done this and they've done that. I read their thing for it. They never gave, you know, this is not anti-school. This is going to also apply to the fire station. I have questions about that. But for right now, I'd just like to talk about this one because I think it's rather cut and dry. Thank you.
Thank
Do you have
you.
any questions for me?
Thank you, Gene.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Alrighty, do we have any other business? We have? Okay. And do I have a motion to, do we need to just, does everybody know, Charlie, you're up signing checks?
I'm sorry, what?
You've been signing checks for September,
Yeah.
Yes.
so Donna is up next, so
And I'm in November.
You're in November and I'm in December. And- Okay. A motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right, thank you. Good night, folks.